Hi, Frank. Nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. So this isn't your first CITIC CLSA Investors Forum. You've been here a couple of times.
Yeah, a couple. I think I've been here about half a dozen times.
Yeah.
And every year we do interviews like this in the most beautiful setting. And this is the one where I'm actually probably the most pessimistic I've ever been about where things are and where they're headed. And we're doing this interview before my keynote speech. And I'm trying in my head to get the right balance between upsetting people so much that they want to leap out of these windows and telling them the truth about where America is right now.
We'll get onto that in just a second, but I want to talk to you about you. What makes Frank Luntz? What is behind the pollster?
It's the polling, actually.
Well, there is that. But tell me a little bit about your upbringing. I mean, your home, your parents, did you have siblings?
I had two very loving parents, a sister with cerebral palsy, so it was an interesting upbringing. It taught me to pay attention to others. It taught me to see how other people are engaging and how they are reacting to the things that I say and things that I do, because I have to be careful. It also made me very political very early. I've been doing this since I was 6 years old. I could barely read, but I was still following a magazine called U.S. News and World Report. I don't even know if it exists anymore. But I used to read the charts and the graphs. I could tell you at 6 years old how many electoral votes California had.
But how did you get a copy of that at 6 years old?
Because my parents had it around the house. I had magazines around the house. I wasn't allowed to watch television. I still remember to this day, the first time I remember the very first time I watched TV was they woke me up to see the Beatles play on the Ed Sullivan Show. This is 1968. And then a year later, they woke me up to see Neil Armstrong land on the moon. And to this day, my single favorite piece of memorabilia is a flag signed by every single astronaut who walked on the moon. And what you don't know is, what I'm thinking now is just the impact that my parents had on me. I'm now putting two and two together. Just right now, sitting here, I thought this was going to be an interview about America, not about myself. But they created curiosity in me. They kept saying to me, ask. That was their favorite word. Ask, learn, study. And I don't think that's all that common anymore.
You just mentioned America and how you thought this interview was about America. Can I say you are America, though? Do you not represent America?
If I represent America, then we're in pretty bad shape. Because if I represent America, I hear what they tell me. I'm doing 2 focus groups a week. I'm doing a nationwide survey at least once a month. And what I hear is so damn depressing that it becomes difficult to function. I know that in the last couple of years, when I do a focus group, I need to go out and take a walk. I need to be around friends. I no longer do sessions, close my computer and go to sleep, because I won't sleep. It's so worrisome to me, so bothersome. And as I get older, I know that some people say I'm becoming more establishment. Well, I'm certainly becoming more conciliatory. I'm certainly not the troublemaker that I used to be in the very first times that you guys would invite me. You didn't know what I was going to say. I didn't know what I was going to say. I was always careful and respectful, but I would challenge. I'm now challenging people to be their best, to be at our best behavior, to be the most respectful, to listen more than you speak, and to do more than you say. That wasn't me 10 years ago when I first started doing this. And I think it's part of recognizing that we're in trouble. The world is in trouble. The country's in trouble. And this is my father in me now. My mom was the education person. My father was the conciliator. He was the one who connected me, the one who said, what would you like to see? And he made sure I could see it. What would you like to do? And he made sure I could do it. Who would you like to meet? And I'll get you to meet them. My dad connected me to the world, and my mom taught me the importance of that world. And the combination of both is really who I've become. And having 2 strokes, including one a few months ago, it means that I don't waste any time. I'm trying to get this stuff done now. And my presentation to you all is going to talk about the election. He's going to have a few jokes sprinkled in. But it's going to begin and it's going to end with the desire to find common ground and the need to find answers to these challenges before the challenges blow us all up.
All right. So you mentioned the focus groups and how, you need a bit of a breather after you have them.
Because I internalize it. So if they're angry, I get angry. If they're resentful, I get resentful. I do focus groups on relations and ethnic divisions, and I get mad at it. I do sessions with younger voters and older voters, and I get mad at the age gap. I did a session with people who live paycheck to paycheck, and I feel for them because we don't understand what they go through. When McDonald's actually becomes expensive and you have to find an alternative, that's the way so many people live right now. And if you're a human being, you can't help but be affected by it. So my life's goal is to bring the voices of those who are not heard or those who are ignored or forgotten. I want those voices to be heard. I want them to be respected, and I want to address their concerns. We all get heard in this room.
But Frank, do you think that you've become more sensitive to these issues because that's who you are, or because you've been through it so many times?
It's both. I've been through it so many times that it changed me. That I could listen to it 10 years ago and know how to process it and know how to help companies sell products and goods and services and know candidates how they could communicate. And now I actually care. I really care about what they're communicating. I will not do a negative ad. I will not help anyone condemn anyone else because we have so much negativity that's out there. And second is, I insist that the news, that the interviews, that the conversations I have for public purposes, that they're about the truth and the unvarnished truth. I'm not going to contribute to fake news. I'm not going to be part of pushing an agenda. I believe the public should demand the truth, and we have the responsibility to tell the truth.
Okay, going back a little bit, you were talking about your, I would say, not hopes, but a bit of a dismay about how
My
America
fears.
is. Yeah, but the thing is, I've watched some of your previous interviews, and before this election, you had similar views about what is happening now, right? So you've been feeling this way at least for a couple of years.
It didn't just happen. I started feeling this way in 2015.
Yeah.
You can agree with someone's policies, but hate how they talk about it. You can believe with someone's agenda, but not like them as a person. And I've always been trying to figure out, in the one country, if I could have my parents back again, what is more important, policy or character? Because I still don't know. And I believe that she knew the answer. And that's what I'm trying to understand in all my interviews. How important is the individual versus what they believe? And I don't have an answer to that. But I try to carry that dilemma with me in every interview that I do.
But do you mean for a presidential electee or for...
Or for a corporate CEO that decides that they have to lay off 1,000 people, or for someone involved in our culture. Are they building us up or tearing us down? Or someone involved in education, which is the most important issue of all. The one conclusion I have for you now that I did not fully understand 10 years ago, is that every problem we have, its genesis is a failure in education. And every problem, the solution to them comes from quality education. But here's the problem. That means we'll be able to do nothing for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
And that's my frustration, and that's my fear, and that's why I'm so negative, so pessimistic.
Well, how did your education shape who you are today?
Thank God. I was awful in high school. I'm an idiot. I said this off
You
camera.
did, I heard
But
you.
I really am an idiot. I barely made the top 15% of my high school class. In college, I flunked. I'm now saying stuff I've never said publicly over the last 30 years. I flunked a class in college. I flunked calculus. I'm a pollster. The basis of my profession is math, and I flunked math in college. So there you go. My career is now over. And then I got a word processor. I was the first person in my entire dorm to have a computer in my room. And my GPA went from 2.78 to 3.3 in 2 years. My last year, I had a 3.9. I only got 1 B because the word processor allowed me to write the way that I think, which is not A, B, C, D. It's a whole combination of stuff that's going on in my head. And having the word processor prepared me for the focus groups and prepared me for the research because it allowed me to hear people from their perspective rather than from my own. So I don't care whether we agree or disagree. I just need to understand you. And going to Oxford, because I have one of my students who's here, we were just talking about it. I went through 2 years at Oxford without doing anything. I barely went to
I doubt that.
No. My tutor kicked me out and wouldn't see me for several weeks and tried to have my scholarship revoked because he thought that I was a right-wing lunatic. And maybe I was. But I was always challenging. I was always asking questions, as my mom told me to do. And then I got beaten up in Ireland, in Northern Ireland. I had a camera lens that was about this long. And I'm taking pictures of the sectarian violence between the Protestants and the Catholics. They're about 30 or 40 feet from each other, and I'm taking pictures. A bunch of hooligans on the Protestant side grabbed me and started kicking me, knocked me over, trying to pull my camera from me, which I would not let go. And the next thing I know, I've got 5 or 6 kids kicking me in the back and trying to kick me in the face. And for one brief moment, I thought, this is how I die. And it was such a wake-up call. I call home to say, Mom, Dad, this happened. My mother's response is, what the hell are you doing there? You deliberately did this to yourself. Don't stand between those two. Get out of there. And my father's response is, I'm going to come get you. We're going to take you home. And I focused on my thesis. I focused on the things I needed to do. And for the first time in my life, I was serious. I realized that I had not taken all my opportunities to heart and had really applied them. And I woke up and I got older. I got my PhD at 24. I got my PhD faster than anybody because for the next 10 months, it's all I did. I missed Billy Joel concerts. I missed Bruce Springsteen concerts. I didn't leave the house. I worked 12 or 14 or 16 hours a day. And that was the beginning of my new life. I had to go through a beating to get my act together, but it changed everything.
Well, we do have life-changing moments. And can I ask, have you had any others since then?
Yeah, my stroke. My first stroke in 2020, which was so awful because it happened while I was teaching my greatest class ever. What I thought was my greatest class. I'm up in New Hampshire. I've got students from NYU Abu Dhabi, 15 students from 14 different countries. And I'm taking them through New Hampshire in the primaries. And everyone who sees this says, oh my God, you have a traveling United Nations with you. And I'm listening to them and I'm learning from them as they react to the process. And my whole left side went numb and it started to move across my face. And I thought I'm having a heart attack. But I'm standing at the front desk. I'm saying to them, I think I'm having a heart attack. Is there a hospital nearby? And they said, we got a Presbyterian hospital 3 miles that way and a Catholic hospital 3 miles that way. And so I said, which one's more likely to save a Jew? And the personnel looked at me in horror because there are people standing behind me waiting to check in and they all heard this. And I went to the right hospital. I won't tell you which one I chose. And I got better, but they kept me in for a week, so I couldn't teach for a week. And that was the first wake-up call, and then it happened again 4 months ago. This one I was teaching at West Point, so the teaching and the strokes all go hand in hand, which may be a lesson to me. But if I don't die from the stroke, then I'm not going to die from the truth. And if I'm allowed to survive and move on from this stuff, then what do I have to lose? So I've really tried to become a truth teller in everything that I do, in how I do it, which is why I'm an idiot. I actually am. You don't believe me. But I listen really well, and I learn, and I'm usually pretty accurate.
We just had a little bit of a joke, but that segues quite nicely into the next topic. How would you say religion affects who you are, your philosophies in life?
Okay, you're really getting personal. I'm just curious, and you can cut this out or keep it in, because I don't mind. But would anyone care?
I care because I think right now, and this doesn't just apply to America, but I think religion has shaped not just politics, but society in general. And I think that has changed the way that we interact in lots of different ways: education, politics, family.
Oh, it's a big deal. Faith really matters. And there are too many countries that are losing it. There's no faith in Europe now. That's where religions were born. And very few people attend church on a weekly basis. And a shocking large number are now either atheist or agnostic. In America, we are much less religious, at least organized religion. And for me...
Well, let me put it differently. I'm not concerned so much about what religious beliefs you hold, but how does having faith shape your life views? You know, you just...
So you're triggering me now.
Let's hear it.
I think it's one of the reasons why I teach. Because I've been blessed, and the gentleman who was most involved in the last 10 years of my life, Rabbi, who I visited when I was at my lowest point, when I've been doing these focus groups and these polls and traveling the globe doing it. I've worked in 30 countries. But that means I hear the negativity and pessimism in 30 countries. And he said to me, start mentoring. What you've learned, start imparting it to young people. I have no kids. So I'm saying I'm not qualified. And his response is, have you seen their parents? I said, yes. Do you think they're doing a good job? I said, no. Then how much worse can you possibly be? You actually are devoted to making a difference in their lives. It's not clear that their parents are. And so I think faith is absolutely essential. And there are so many times, if I miss a plane, something amazing happens to me afterward. Or I end up choosing to go left rather than right. And there's something special behind the door that I open. That this happens to me almost every day. And I think that I'm being directed. I don't pray to that. That's not really a part of my life. But I respect that there's something that's intervening. And I have to hear it. And it's my responsibility to respond. So here in Hong Kong, we've seen several people proselytizing, out there yelling, and no one's listening to them. That's not faith. Faith is changing your direction because you believe that there's a bigger purpose out there and you have to satisfy it. I have that. I have that deep inside me. No one's asked me that question before.
I don't want to talk politics.
I get it.
But I want to end on a positive note. I say...
By the way, good luck. I'm going to have to make an effort. I'll do a speech for 45 minutes and someone raises their hand and say, you have so depressed me. Can you end on a positive note? And I says, yes, I'm only speaking for 4 more minutes. So that'll be the end of it. But it's really hard because I do hear people. Look around you. This is success. Something special happened in this island or in this community to build all this. But there's pain here too. And for some reason, that's what I've been hearing over the last 10 years. So it's become part of me.
I would argue against a little bit of that because I think for the most part, our interview today has been positive. You know, I think talking about the fact that you are sensitive and that you are open to hearing other people's views and to educate the young.
But there's a student who's listening to me right now. And I'm going to ask him how I did. What would you change? And until he gives me something that's tangible, I will keep pursuing it. Because I am on the... 2 things matter to me. Maybe this is positive, maybe it's not. The pursuit of perfection and the pursuit of the truth. And I practice both of them every single day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year.
As someone that believes in those 2 philosophies as well, it does get tiring. but positivity. So I want to end on this. Can you tell me, what are you most grateful for in your life?
You're poking at it. My students. Because they give me purpose.
Well, on that note, thank you so much, Frank.
Thanks for doing this.